Hi guys, good evening once again. Welcome to another episode of Design with You. So my name is Eugene and I'll be your host for this evening. So for those that don't know, Design with You is a weekly session where we host senior designers to come and share experiences on certain topics in design. Last week we had Hakim to talk about networking, and this week we are having Taqwa Ghazal to talk about customer research on a tight deadline. So just to confirm, can you all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, awesome stuff. So Taqwa Ghazal basically leads the design team as Lemonade Finance. So they're trying to build a neobank for migrants across the world. So he has over 6 years worth of experience where he helps build tech solutions for different industries. He's passionate about good usable designs that adds value to businesses. Basically, when he's not doing this awesome stuff, he wants to help designers grow in their career. So for the next couple of minutes, we'll be having him talk about customer research on a tight deadline. So Taqwa Ghazal, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you very much, Eugene. Going to share my screen now. All right. All right. Hello everyone. Like Eugene mentioned, my name is Taqwa. I lead design at Lemonade Finance. Now we're talking about customer research on a tight deadline. Um, yeah, so just a little about me. I think he has mentioned a little already. Just like to spend about a minute just talking about how I started and where I am now. Um, I kind of, I would almost accidentally got into UX design. When I was leaving uni, I didn't even know there was anything called UX design. Um, but I started my first job as a um, research assistant for an NGO, and so we're working on helping preschool kids uh, get like the very best education right from like the preschool level. So we're trying to work with different things, coming up with curriculum, worksheets. We're trying to build an app at that time to give to their teachers so that they can have like a curriculum and constantly get that curriculum updated, trying to see how we can get internet in rural areas because we're mostly working with teachers and pupils in disadvantaged communities. So at some point, we started to run out of money to pay for professionals and things like that, especially the designer. Designer was quite expensive at that point. So I just unwillingly took on the design role and just downloaded Adobe Illustrator and started doing some interesting stuff. They were quite at that point. It felt very exciting and it felt like I was doing great stuff. But in retrospect, in retrospect, I think I did a lot of trash stuff. But at least it worked for that moment. And that was when I realized that I like design. Even though I started out like illustrating and doing social media stuff and creating banners and whatnot, um, I started to gravitate slowly towards UX design while I was trying to explore what exactly is design out there. So I had a friend at hotels.ng at that time. He was the lead designer at hotels.ng. So I asked him if I could come on board. I did some designs, I sent it to him. Um, I think I was a bit fortunate at that time because the market for the getting an entry level job at that time is not as difficult as now as it is now. I talked to a lot of designers um, who are just starting out, and honestly, I know the challenge that exists. So I was able to get, and Marketing gave me my first shot. Very thankful for the opportunity, and that was pretty much how it all started. So for me, and one of the reasons why I like to reflect about this beginning is I started out doing research, right? And it has kind of like fueled how I see UX design and the importance of research in UX design. Because I spent a lot of time writing papers, doing research, um, talking to people, and just listening to people even more than talking to them. So over the last 6 years, I've worked in e-commerce. I was working at Opera. I was working on one of their like subsidiary companies here in Africa. Um, I've worked in crypto, um, freelanced a lot, uh, been here and there actually. Exciting stuff. I uh, worked in seamless HR, so lots of interesting places, and a lot of these things, even though it feels like a lot of things in so few years, you just have to find a pattern of what works and what does not work, and so it kind of I would say it leads me here. So before we start talking to people about design, about any topic in design, I always like to just remind people about what design is really. And this is like my favorite definition of design. I think it's by Jared Spool. Um, he runs a UX center somewhere in the US. So he said, design is the rendering of intent. What we intentionally design can delight someone. It can also frustrate them. We can change our rendering with the intention to create more delight and frustration. There's a lot to unpack with this definition. I just hope that maybe someone out there can benefit, take a screenshot and keep reading it, because like this on its own is like an entire topic. But for the first line, I'll just design is the rendering of intent. So there's an intention, there's something you want to achieve or carry out, and so you use design to sort of like bring it to life. Um, every one of us knows like Steve Jobs and all the wonderful things that the people at Apple have done, and you can just see that they are very intentional about the products that they create. Products are not always born perfect, but you can see how much intention people put into a design, and I feel like it gives it like it's what makes it a really good design. So to my topic, so what's customer research, right? Um, so customer research is essentially conducted to identify customer segments, to identify customer needs, and to understand customer behaviors, right? The truth is, the reason why we're in business or we're in the market is not specifically for the product that we have. It's for the product that we have created. But the reason why let me put it like this: the reason why our product is successful is the amount of attention we'll be able to grab from customers, the amount of problems we've been able to solve with that solution. So I sometimes always feel like the product itself is not the core, but the usefulness of that product. I don't know if it kind of makes sense, but the usefulness or the attributes and the meaning of that product to the customers is what um, is the most important thing. So what customer research does is help us to uncover those meanings. And one of the reasons why I align with this, my thought process, is that sometimes we create a product, there's a popular product, and it's just trending. And even the owners of the product don't exactly know what they did right. Like I've seen it a bunch of times. Like people don't know exactly what they did right, but they just know that something is right and customers are loving it. So the next step, if you want to stay on your game, is really to understand why customers really love it. And for products that are not so great, you want to also understand what are the pain points, right? What are the challenges? Customer research is important for different types of departments, right? It's important for designers to understand the product, understand the customers. It's very important for marketers to understand why their product is popular. It's important for product managers. It's important for C-level executives. like everybody has there are reasons why customer research is important, and the best companies are the ones who understand their products and their user and their business the best, and that takes a whole lot of research. Um, so I already started to talk about this already. Yeah, um, so why is it important? I already started talking about this. So understanding your customers, understanding the market, improving performance, and to test ideas. I'll leave it to because I already said stuff about it. So, but I'll talk about improving performance. Um, Design is never done right. At this point, I think we all know that. There's no case where what you launch. I always tell my product team, like, what we are building for MVP is just to say, hey, we are here. Oh. This is also uh, for a while when I was working, I used to just join startups, and at some point I just got burnt out of working for startups because I felt like, man, startups are hard. Like, being the first designer on the team or second designer on the team, and you're still looking for product market fit and things like that. So like I used to feel like that part was like the real ghetto, like everybody just in the trenches, just trying to get something out and get something beautiful out. And then at my current company, we got to, or we are getting to growth stage, and trust me, it's like it's almost even harder than being a startup because growth stage is really really challenging. At this point, you sort of semi-validated your product in the market, right? You've now at the beginning of a product, right? You find a core user base, people who really really need your product. As you get to growth stage, you are selling to people who don't even know that they need your product. You're selling to people who may need your product, though, but not necessarily like they can survive without it. You're also trying to change people's mindset or belief about a certain product. You're also trying to steal like a wider base of customers. Like your first set of maybe your first 1,000, they have a real reason to come to your product, right? Maybe your competitor is just more expensive or inaccessible. But when you're going from like 50,000 to 100,000 to your 1 million, like that that customer base is like really diluted, and there are so many reasons why people buy into your product and or not buy into your product. It could be as flimsy as just sentiment. So like do the level of customer research that you start to do at that point, the level of product understanding that you start to do at that point, is just it's exciting and troubling and exciting all over again. So like improving performance is one very big reason why you want to continue doing customer research, and then testing ideas. This applies to like when you're starting out with an idea as well as good phase companies. You always want to be testing ideas, right? You always I a lot of times we designers, and I've done that for a lot of years. I build in silo, right? I build in my living room, and at best I'm testing with just guys I work with. Um and it's like we are building a product that is for us, and then it gets out and you're wondering why people are not adopting and things like that. But one thing you can get right, one way to get your product right is testing ideas really fast and in a very cheap way, and very often, very very often. Like um I think my first 2 years I struggled with feedback and collecting feedback. I sometimes would think that man, maybe this guy doesn't like me or something like that, and then I used to hide away because I felt bad about how when people give me feedback on some basic stuff, like, but I realized that the more you test out ideas, the more you throw things out in the wild and see what comes back to you, the better, not necessarily like the better you will be, because that's not the focus. It's like you don't want to be selfish as a designer. You're building for others, right? So the better your product will be if the more you get ideas out there, or the more you validate the ideas that you have. um, so what constraints put you on a budget, right? Um, it's easy to think about user research and just say it's expensive, and that's the reason why you want to do it on a budget. but there's a whole lot more. In the post that was leading to this talk, Eugene talked about meeting deadlines. So time is like a very big factor. Um, for most of us that design in Nigeria, it's time. Time is something that we don't have. Like um, somebody made a joke on Twitter some time back and said we're always doing organ-driven development, and it's true. There's is Oga, you're trying to either you're trying to please him or you're trying to meet up with Oga's timeline, one of the two. So like you're under a lot of pressure, time wise. There's also money to do. Like when you sometimes read about research or you read extensive case studies of guys abroad, it's like these guys can pay people $50 an hour or give them gift card or something like that. But in Nigeria, even if you go and meet HR, only a few companies will actually approve a budget for you for customer research. So money is something that almost is not available for you. There's also experience. Sometimes you're not just experienced enough to do some level of research, right? Um, it doesn't necessarily mean because you're a junior designer. It could be like you're a senior designer, but this is a new field for you, and there are some constraints that won't allow you to explore certain things. There's also access to quality data. Yes, data is everywhere, but it's also in some cases it could also be inaccessible. For example, if your competitors just have better data than you, and they've sort of, will I say, um, cannibalize the data. If I hope I'm correct, the word I'm looking for is really if they've like you can't really get access to the data because they are biggest in the market and they've just like covered the entire data and there's not much you can know. It's rare, but it's very possible to not be able to have access to data. Another angle to access to quality data is if you are building something that is like relatively novel, right? Most of the time, when we are doing customer research, we are going to validate an idea or opinion that we have. Um, and sometimes when we are talking to people, like sometimes you talk to a person and the idea resonates with them or it's a pinpoint that they currently have that you're trying to solve. There's another angle to product design or UX design that people don't even know that they have that problem, right? And the product you're trying to launch into the world is going to sort of take over. It's a leap in technology. You're bringing something no one has ever seen, or changing the way people use something. So at that point, there might not necessarily be data that would direct you. There may be data like lots of people to talk to and everything. But like if you tell people that idea, they might be skeptics or they might just shut it down like, nah, the world doesn't need it. But you're going to go and build it. It's just a big leap of faith. A very quick example is like the iPhone. Nobody needed a smartphone that's so smart at that time. Everybody was contented with Blackberries and things like that. But the iPhone came to like change the way we think about design. The same we could go on and on and on about products like that. There's also new product technology, and which is like okay, there's limited number of customers, right? Sometimes I'll give this one is even from a personal experience. So we were building Lemonade Finance, and I was living in Lagos at that time. And our entire customer base we're building for people who live in Canada. That was our version one. Um, I didn't know any. I didn't really know anybody in Canada at that point, and there was limited amount of time to really actually go and talk to anybody in Canada. So we were just building off competitors' products, and or I was personally building off competitors' products and things like that. So there was not much for me to go at. Even after I built the version one, there's not much to talk. Even when you talk to customers, their main problem is not the design, it's about the exchange rate is too high or something like that. So there's not much you can get out of that. Especially when somebody is like bothered about money than any other thing. Like I just want to send at the best exchange rate possible. There's not much you can get after that. Then the last one is new product and technology I mentioned earlier, very closely related to access to quality data. Yeah. So customer research in a tight deadline. So some of the points that I'm going to talk about are um, ideas that you use for a typical customer research, right? But I'm going to come from an angle of, okay, this is the thing, right? How can we do it on a budget? How can we do it quick, fast, and dirty and get something out of it? So first thing is desk research, right? Desk research is really just collecting data from existing sources. Um, like in the UK, like you can be very lucky, you get access to a library and you can read stuff. Yeah, it feels like you're building for technology. Why do you want to go to a library? But you'd be surprised the amount of information you can actually get from books and things like that. So um, also text research is very very easy because you don't really need anybody to talk to. Um, you can sit at your desk, do it, or just go to a coffee shop and sit down and try and do something. So it's very very cheap and easy. I also personally, and this is a personal opinion, think that desk research is also you sitting down and properly just thinking about the product that you want to build and and looking at apps and things like that. There's a serious place for just observing and playing with other people's products and whatnot. Um, so that's for desk research. Another one is quickfire usability testing, right? So inviting users to test your product prototypes. This one, yeah, usability like testing doesn't need some grand like very big stuff. You can easily just WhatsApp a couple of your friends. Guys, I have this idea. You guys look at it, or I have this idea. Can you just look at it for me and tell me what the thing is? If you have an NDA that doesn't allow you to share stuff, that's a whole other ball game, right? But I feel like this very very simple stuff, like just getting, I send designs to my friends from time to time, and my design friends, they send me designs like very often, like, guy, just look at this thing for me. And it really goes a long way. It helps like a whole lot. Sometimes you are thinking about certain things. For example, I know that there was a time I was struggling a lot with understanding fonts, and I had my interpretation of how fonts were. It wasn't so bad, but I just realized I realized that I like some kind of weird fonts, right? Um, and it took just constantly sharing font ideas and the way I lay out fonts on designs with people for them to start for me to start getting the correction that I needed to get better at using and pairing fonts. And that's customer research. Like it's not bigger than that. So A/B testing prototypes is one thing I try to always tell designers, like junior designers, upcoming designers. Try not to do one version of a thing, and there are many reasons for that. The first is doing multiple versions allows you to like just expand on your thoughts. The truth is, a lot of the time, your first version might be the best, but there are ideas, even if it's subtle ideas, that come out when you are when you tell yourself, okay, I'm going to do like 3 4 ideas of this same thing. Like it just stretches your brain. And the last an important thing for me about doing A/B testing and having multiple ideas for a single thing is that even if the first one is the best one, um, my trying other things sort of just validates like that first one. Like I see why the first one is better. Like rather than just doing one thing and submitting it and that kind of thing. So doing A/B testing, asking the nearest person to compare. And sometimes when we submit one item, like people just judge that one item. But when there's something else to compare things with, it gives a fuller, better picture. It's like trying to compare gray and black. You see that they sort of are like dark gray and black. You see that they are very similar, but black allows you to actually appreciate dark gray. Like so, it's actually very important. It's very small thing, but I've seen its importance like a whole lot. So something else online surveys and questionnaires. Personally, I don't really like surveys, and I'll be honest. And the reason is that surveys sometimes can be very misleading, but in some on some level, like they work, especially when you're trying to when it's that you're validating an idea. So if you're, and this is a personal opinion, right? I could be corrected. If you're trying to get something new and everything, and you're just trying to generally ask for people's opinion, I feel like people are in their houses and they just want to fill up the form for you and get on with their life. But if it's validating like some hypothesis, right? Um, I feel like you are likely to get a better result, but that's just from my own experience. So like doing a quick short form, 5 questions, send it out, it won't even take you 30 minutes, get information back, and you're done. Again, the entire purpose of customer research is to really help you and guide you and give you like a walking stick to your destination. And I think that if you are in if you are incorporating some of these small ideas and consistent customer research, even your product understanding will get a lot better. Like I remember one time we started to do customer research at somewhere where I was working, and then we started to talk in terms of um like users. We weren't saying that, let's design it like this to make sense. We started to like mention usernames, like, oh, that guy said this, that guy said that, and it really really helped and refined the way we were thinking about our product, because now we could picture people who are going to use this thing. We could actually we had names for them that is not fictitious. We had age, we had the occupation, like it was a clearer view. And these things can be very inexpensive, like inexpensive money wise and time wise. So my next point is guerrilla UX research, which is pretty much just going out in the field, like go to a coffee shop, go to I know Nigerians might be skeptical about talking to people that you don't know, so it can be quite difficult. But you can be in luck. Um, Something else is also just going to, like when you go for a conference, like right, look for random people to just talk to, start up a simple conversation, and then tell them about your product, and just show them like your app. What do they think? Let them give you ideas, what you're struggling with and things like that. So when you go to like familiar areas where people will be much more open, it's absolutely better than being in a bus at 6 o'clock in the evening coming from Lagos Island to Yaba, and the person is absolutely exhausted. You're not going to get anything. So yeah, there's that. So focus groups. So focus groups are uh, like it's like a group session basically, right? Um, and one interesting way to do that is to actually get your entire customer service department, or maybe not the entire team, because they're also busy. But if you can get like 40% of your customer service department in a meeting and do a focus group research with them, you would uncover interesting. I actually think that you need to be on some level best friends with the head of customer success if you're going to build a really good product. Like you need to be very close to them. So you remote user interview. This one is pretty straightforward. Find a time, book a session with someone. There's something I'm trying to do now. I've not started doing it. I want to book a session every week with one new person to talk about my product. Um, and it's not so hard. It's just one person, 15 minutes call. Let me know your experience this week. And I'll follow up with you in 3 weeks' time. What was your experience again? I feel like I want to do that and just do it for like 6 months straight. I have this intuition that I'm going to learn a lot from just that simple practice. Just maybe once a month, 15 minutes, book a call with one person and maybe 4 people, and just do that for 6 months straight. I'm excited about what it can actually bring. Another thing is looking into your analytics, right? Ask for whatever analytics tool you're using. If you're working in a fintech, there's always a dashboard. There's always also an admin dashboard where people are seeing transactions. I remember one day we're trying to solve a problem, and we went to look for that particular user on the admin dashboard and look at a list of of the person's transaction. What we're trying to actually do was, um, I think we're trying to come up with like customer profiles, and let's see, um, like sort of like a behavior pattern. And what we sort of just realized that, okay, so yeah, I remember correctly now. So what we're trying to do is, we're designing a page, or I was designing a page of account numbers, right? So one of the things you can do with Lemonade is link some account numbers that you frequently send money to, right? So we were trying to see, like, do we need the page to scroll, on how long is the page going to typically scroll for customers, right? Small, tiny fix, no big deal. But we're just trying to, because it will affect how we design. Do we design with a lot more space? Do we make it tight so that you just can see a lot more account numbers without scrolling and things like that? So there's a bunch of considerations, nothing too big. Then the PM suggested that we just look at some random people on the admin dashboard, and we just noticed that people frequently send to a handful of people. It could be, and very often is to themselves. Like people in Canada send money to, first of all, they'll send it from their Canadian bank account using Lemonade to their own Nigerian bank accounts, and then they distribute the money however they want to. So it's usually down to their own Nigerian bank accounts, and occasionally it's like to their wife or their mother. So it's like a small circle, and we're able to just get that information, and it affected, or it advised the way we will design by just simply going through analytics of transactions in our admin dashboard. Simple, doesn't require anything, solve the problem. The next thing is, and this one is particularly for um, um, especially when you're starting a product, but it's also useful when you're trying to solve a problem or come up with a new feature or fix a feature. I like to think about the problem statements that, like, and really define, because if you've not been able to properly define your problem statement, like what exactly are you solving? You very often design the wrong thing, or design the right solution for a different problem. So like just taking time, sitting down, and reflecting. Someone said something, I think it was on LinkedIn or Twitter. I think it was on LinkedIn, and he said, I think designers should spend a lot less time on Figma. And I really think it's true. Like unfortunately, because Oga has access to our Figma file, if you're not on Figma during work hours, it feels as if you're not working. So that's kind of like a challenge. But I think that if you learn to just show impact over time, everybody will leave it to you. Like nobody's going to police me at work now that I'm not on Figma. So yeah, I think over time you just earn trust. But yes, sitting down and thinking about, like, very often now I will just lie down and sleep and make sure that the last thing I'm thinking about is the problem I want to solve. Or I'll take a walk. Like those kind of things just help. Like take a walk and slowly think about my problem. Slowly think about the problem I'm actually. It's I consider it use customer research, to be honest. The next point is the competitor. It's always nice to have like a spreadsheet where you're tracking your biggest competitors, like, and just keep adding stuff, keep adding stuff, keep adding stuff. Let it be a living document. It might not be useful today, but 3 months down the line, it's useful. It's also useful for tracking where your product is and where your competitor's product is. Seen, it could also like advise your roadmap. It could also advise something very important that it could advise is, sometimes competitors come up with this shiny new feature, and it looks as if, oh man, we are getting kicked out of the market. And then 3 months down the line, they've killed the product, or people are not really using the product, right? But if you don't track it, you can't measure it. Like if you don't track it, if you don't put it somewhere down, you can't say, oh, okay, this guy's actually released like a bunch of features and that they've killed that by this point. So maybe we should not be paying so much attention to them, or we shouldn't get scared anytime they announce anything big, because these guys are just like, they're just waste men basically. But that's just a negative this thing. But essentially, I think it's very, very important to just constantly analyze. It will be a good source, a good library of ideas for you uh, as time goes on. So going through customer success emails and the tools. So the tools that they use to manage like incoming stuff like emails, phone calls, and things like that, and requests and feedback. Yeah, just taking your time to go through the emails, going through those things will give you a wealth of information. You'd see people who sometimes, like, you can see the name of the person and you want to go to social media and just go and read about the person to understand the mindset of your average customer, right? You see the things that they're complaining about, and a whole lot of things there. Then the next point is using online communities. I remember when I can't remember what I was designing. I think I was working for, I think it was Workstation I was working for at that time, and I needed to design something. And I just spent a lot of time on Reddit, on Facebook. Was it Facebook? I know some social media platforms that I just went in to understand the typical way people that are going to use that product think, like the way they converse. Like, it helps with your copywriting when you understand your, like, somebody did a thread on why Cash App was doing so well, and one of the things they mentioned is they are able to attract like the Black immigrant community a lot in the United States. And one of the ways they do that is being able to their adverts and their copy, they're able to appeal to Black immigrant communities a lot. And I would say that at the beginning, at some point, that community essentially just carried over the product and we're doing. And we all know that word of mouth is like the best marketing this thing, because it's cheap and it can go like wildfire. So they did that, and it really helped their product. That's not the only segment of their product, but that's an important segment of their product. And one of the ways to actually do that and learn a lot is just using online communities, Facebook groups, WhatsApp. Does your company have a Telegram channel for its customers? Like, read through. I remember when we started our own Telegram, my employer was always telling me, why am I not on the Telegram channel? Am I reading? Am I seeing stuff? I used to be like, nah, that's just waste of time. Like, 100 messages in a day. What do you want me to do? I have like tons of things to do. But when I became a believer and I started just reading how people feel, people mostly complain about the same thing, but you learn a ton of things about like their patience level, how to communicate when there's a downtime, how certain things are pressing for them, and also trying to just sometimes message some of them and douse the fire could also win you like a friend. So when you like need to test out some designs or something, you have like a contact of people. I'll reach out to this person and things like that. So important stuff. Using social media. Sorry, this last two pretty much the same thing. Sorry about that. So I just skipped that first one. So read extensively and trust your instinct. One thing I always advise everybody who is starting, especially on a new project or a new job, is like that first week when you're on the job, when you're just employed. Don't be in a hurry to like just start designing things. Take time, read about the customers, read about the business, like even read about like your coworkers, where they've been, where they've worked. Read the business, like don't just read about how technology have solved a certain thing. For example, if you're working in fintech, don't just read about, oh, look at all the apps. Like, go back, try and understand like banking from like the very history of banking. I'm not saying become a professor of like history or professor of banking, but just having a very good idea of even why people even bank, or the history of money and how people feel about money and things like that. If you're working in hospitality, how do people think about holidays? How did they make that decision to go on a holiday? How do people make decisions that affects their budgets? Things like that. Just reading, because sometimes you will not be able to get all your answers from your research, and you just need to trust your instinct on the things that you have designed. um, People don't always know what they want. That's just the truth. So you can't always rely on getting information from people. um so this it fits into the next one, which is like observation as a valuable tool. um like, what kind of emails are coming to customer support? What is customer support struggling with? Again, customer support needs to be like your friend. You need to have friends on that place. You need them to be your friend, so that it's not every time you go them to ask them for questions. It's like somebody just emails you or message you on Slack, like, guy, something is happening. Like, they start to feel like they're part of the product team. Very, 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 very important stuff. Very, very useful stuff when your customer service team can like send you a message and like, something is happening. Do you think we should do this? Sometimes you find that in design, it's just copy you need to change. Like, you don't need to design an entire new page or a new flow. You just need to change copy. And usually you know that from maybe like it's like telling people, oh, your money is going to be sent, your money is pending, or and changing from your money, your transaction is in progress to your transaction will be delivered in 5 minutes, right? Now people know to be a bit patient, because, oh, the company said 5 minutes, so I need to be patient. It's not like, oh, guys, what happened now? I sent money and blah 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 blah. So those kind of things are like, when you observe, when you're in the moment, when you're studying things. It's not every time like you're just in Figma. Sometimes you go to your Slack channel and read all the messages, read like what the mobile guys are doing. Everybody just observing all around you. Very, very important. So recruiting a few users and giving them like incentives. Like, um you don't really need to pay people like 5,000 naira for their 1 hour session. You could say, you could get people that, I'll buy a recharge card for you. They could be your friends or things like that. Free lunch. Your friends are also a very good um, pool of research participants, and your friend's friend. You could tell people, let's hang out this weekend. And while you're talking about every other thing, just divert it for like 15 minutes and like, guys, we're building something. What do you guys think about this? Like, I do that sometimes with like my neighbor, and we just talk about my work, and I want to see what he's thinking about. Very, 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 very simple stuff, right? Um, Talk to people around you. Yeah, pretty much like what I just mentioned now. Yeah, very, very good insights. Like, talk to your engineers, talk about the constraint, talk to your PMs, talk to your neighbors, um, talk to people. You'll be surprised the amount of information you get from just talking to people. Generally. So like, useful tip, like things that I thought about: opt for quality over quantity. Like, because you don't have time, like you can't do a survey and be looking for 1,000 participants. So you want 5 useful people or 3 useful people, which takes me back to um, going through social media. Like, when you go through social media and see people that are likely to use your product, it's easy for you to, please, can you just fill the survey for me, please? I work at XYZ place. Can you fill the survey for me? Or just you are able to like curate and go to the point directly. So when you focus on quality rather than quality, it just helps the quality of the feedback that you get. List out your assumptions. So even before, like I said, customers don't exactly always know what you want. So sometimes you need to like think about everything that you want to do, or think about your assumptions, and maybe all you need from people is just confirming those assumptions. And then learning to ask the right question. This one takes time, takes skill, takes refining, right? Learning to ask the right questions. It takes learning, reading books. One thing I would encourage people to do is read other people's case studies. It's not only when you're designing your portfolio that you want to be looking at other people's case studies. Like, take time to read case studies. You see how people are framing questions, it can be very exciting, especially when you're reading for UX researchers, not so much of UI designers or product designers. Or UX researchers come up with some very, very interesting angles and questions. Another set of people that I like reading their case studies are marketers. Very, very exciting stuff. So grade your user participants on a curve, right? Again, feedback to the first one, quality, more important. Take advantage of free data, Google Analytics, anywhere you can get free data. Like look for free data and actually just play around with it. Don't ask too much questions in a survey. For example, if you have 15 questions that you want to ask, right? Segment them five or create like buckets of it and then send to different types of people. Like like for every one person, you send them two different types of surveys, right? So that you can get a whole lot of information. I hope that like you understood what I'm trying to say there. But if you try that, just mix and match and send to one person 5 questions, then tomorrow send him another 5 questions, that kind of thing. So it helps. Do a mix of one-on-one and focus group. The interesting thing about focus groups is um okay, the negative side is like, for example, if you're doing a focus group and one person says, "Oh, I don't like this," and every other person, there's a design rule like that. Every other person might say they don't like it, but the good side is when you make it a discussion. For example, you go out with your friends and you guys are talking about your product. Let's say you work at Carrywise and you guys are students and you're just talking about savings and saving culture, that kind of thing. Being in the midst of more than one person can help the conversation to continue to go on, as opposed to just one-on-one person, just one-on-one, and they're just asking direct questions. I think the real skill there is really knowing how to ask the right question. Listen more. I don't even know where to start, or I don't even think I need to even touch on that one. Like as a designer, you need to just really, really learn to listen a lot. Try to get your users talking, do testing periodically and on small features. Don't always wait till you have like big features to test. Try to make it a habit, right? Like I said earlier, like I want to test out, I want to do some experiments for myself, like get some customers and follow them through like 6 months. Like just make it a habit. The more you do it, the better you'll be at customer research. You even find ideas and uncover things that like I've not even put here. Then same thing, make A/B testing a habit. Yeah, I think my time is almost up. Sorry. So at the end of the day, you've gotten all of this information. So bringing it all together. So organize your learnings, right? Um, Find ways to organize it, put it in a document. So it's not just things that are scattered about. Discuss your learnings with stakeholders. So verify or clarify confusing or out of place or interesting data, right? Just somebody said something and you study somewhere, you can always go back. Okay, you said this. Can you explain a bit more? Or you take that same piece of data and take it to somewhere else and test that or validate it. Use your research in the design. It's weird, but it's actually funny that you could start designing and abandon all the hard work of research that you have done. Maybe because you are panicking for time or anything, but use your research. The last point is when you're presenting to stakeholders, don't just say this is the design. Try and this is why I made this decision. It helps you with so many levels. On some level, on one is like respect. One, a lot less pushback, right? People will push back to your ideas because and then it also builds like a culture for you. Like people, nobody just going to throw you like ask you random questions, why do you do this, or tell you to just there's this popular stuff about designers that your stakeholder or client is always holding your hand. If you are showing people data and the things that you did, even if it's a short, if it's not so much, if it's just a survey, like people tend, okay, this guy is being professional, he knows what he's doing. Um, Thank you very much. Yeah, I hope like everyone was able to like learn one or two things. Yeah. Um, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Taqwa. So for now, we'll open the floor for questions. If you have questions on what he's said so far, so just either unmute your mic or drop on the chat box for us to see. Okay, I have a personal question though. So,
Right.
in cases where, for example, your customer service are bringing in complaints from their customers now, like saying, for example, add so and so feature to the products or something like that. How would the products team handle that kind of situation?
So can you come again with your question?
Okay, in instances where the customer service departments now are bringing in complaints and features from their customers now to the products team, like at an alarming rates. Customer A says do this, customer B says do this, customer C says do this. How would the products team tackle this?
So for me, first I really just try to understand where these questions are coming from. There's no smoke without the fire, right? Most times, in my experience, most times when there's like lots of fire coming from the customer service, um there's a source problem that we've not identified. Either, and sometimes it's not even design related. It's just it could be engineering implementation of certain things. So that's why I said you need to really sit down, go through those emails by yourself, find time to either you're talking to the customer service or find customers to actually talk to, um, and then start to pull together the information. One big challenge with all of this is there's usually a product roadmap, right? And for companies to scale, you need to be kind of disciplined with your product roadmap. If not, things will just fall out. There's also the problem of sometimes the customer, what the customer is requesting may not just be the right thing. I've I've so I was working at the company a few years back, and we're doing the same customer driven development thing. Like customer want this, customer want this, customer want this, and at the end of the day, it just really messed a lot of things on the table. And what eventually we had to go and do, and the company is doing right now, is to just go back and say, okay, we want to build a very good product with very good experience. Customers want all of these things, but we will put it in our PRD, but we will not pay all the attention to it. We'll take some things out and fix it, and we'll start fixing one at a time. Like, I will get there in months, but not now. So yeah, you want to pay attention to customers, but you also want to pay attention to also business. And again, very importantly, there's no smoke without fire. Like, trace the source of the problem. Like, um, if there are so many problems coming from customers and there are different types of problems, that's that, I don't even know, that's a really really big problem. But at the end, you can't even solve everything. So you're going to really just pick one thing at a time, discuss, get buying from stakeholders. This is why we should do this. This is why we should do it, and just start solving one at a time. Um, yeah, I think that's what I'll say.
Okay, then thank you very much. There's a question from Toby.
Okay.
They're asking, does user reviews, as I take it, from the products or competitor products count as customer research? That is looking through review sections of Play Store or App Store of the product.
Yes, it does. It can be misleading occasionally, but yes, it absolutely does. Um, I know I've done that kind of research before, where I was just going through their customer reviews, knowing what, especially when people are saying bad stuff or dropping very bad reviews. Um, there's something about, you learn more from failures than success, right? So when people are dropping bad reviews, you kind of know what to do better than your competitor. So yeah, thank you for that. That's a very very valuable point. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there other questions? I'm guessing there are none. So if there are no other questions, to call it a night for today. Thank you very much, Taqwa Ghazal. I really like your name, I must say. Taqwa Ghazal, it sounds cool.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we have these sessions every single week. Next week, I have another speaker, Sunday by 8 p.m. So this record, the recording will be available in a few days' time on our YouTube channel. Link is on the chat box. So you could follow us for more information on the following topics, next topics essentially. Also, we have a partnership with Propel that basically gives us access to job openings on a regular basis. We'll have information about that tomorrow. There's an opening coming up soon. So wait up for our newsletter for this information. So that'll be all for tonight. If there is any other thing, can you just reach out on Twitter, LinkedIn, or our newsletter? Thank you very much and have a good night.